Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Always Almost There. I'm Ryan. That's Neil. And we are here today with very, very special guest, Brownie, a.k.a. Marc Brownstein, bass player of the Disco Biscuits, and today's conversation topic, Foie Gras and CrumpUntz. Hi, Brownie.
Hey, how's it going? How
Welcome.
you doing, Neil? How you doing, Ryan? Young Ryan. Pleasure to be back with you.
Yes,
Here we
been
are.
a couple years since we did a podcast.
I feel like it's been a couple days or a couple hours because I follow along, of course, with all of your travels, all of your tribulations as you go. I think that I join a lot of people in asking the proverbial question, however does he do it? Like something is going on, but we're not sure what it is. But it's like if this music journalism is funding this whole thing, then that's great, man. I just so fucking happy for you that you get to go out and go to so many concerts. I wish that you would up your ratio of biscuits, and it's hard. There's so many bands, and I see your list, dude, because he posts. Everybody knows.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Ryan posts his list of what, not only what he's going to, but what he's been to, and it is fairly impressive. And I just feel like, I mean, possibly Duddy, possibly Illuminati, something's going on, but it just
You never know.
I appreciate the odd biscuit show that you come to, and I just want to up that ratio a little bit. Yeah, that's right. Up it a little bit. We'll get you. This is a slow process sometimes, Neil. Anyway,
yeah,
good to be back. Good to see you. I'm glad you're just on the heels of a Mexican vacation.
Yes,
true.
Yeah, we were both down there a couple of weeks back. We had a good time.
That was
an excellent
time. I wasn't convinced by Ryan. Neil just convinced me it was an excellent time.
It was an excellent time.
Ryan had something was in his voice. He goes, we had a good time. You know what I mean? That could just be I'm
downplaying it.
Right. It was sick.
Yes.
Yeah, it was sick. It was sick. If you do 70, 80, 90, maybe 120 shows a year, sometimes it's hard to get the blood pressure up, but he's a young man.
I find a way.
Yeah. So great times were had.
Okay, great. That sounds good.
Speaking of making things happen, I think the first question that we have is, how on earth did CrumpUntz happen?
Yeah, it's funny because yesterday I was doing a different podcast, and I'll just kind of I did a podcast with the hawk to a girl of like line chairs, you know what I mean? It's the guy that threw the chairs that went viral on Billy String's tour for going to the line where people were hanging, Cody. And he was like throwing the chairs. He's got a podcast now. He's like the hot tour girl of the jam band scene. And so I did his podcast yesterday, and he said, it's funny. He was like, you have so many different brands. Like, like over the years, you've done so many bands, but DJ Brownie and Electron and Conspirator and Star Kitchen. And he's going down the list of the bands. And I was like, yeah, I hope that one day I will achieve the stature. I've been 30 years in the jam band scene, and so there's a certain just stature you get from being one of the original surviving in a band from the original group of jam bands from the early 90s. I mean, there's only a handful of us that made it from 1993, 4, 5 out into 2025. So you do get, I think, automatic stature for that, but I don't know that I quite am at the stature yet of an O'Teal who has O'Teal and Friends, and so he just goes out as O'Teal and Friends, and it's just whoever you can get for that particular lineup, right? Or Phil and Friends. Nobody's ever going to have that stature. So, but it's just, there is a level, though, O'Teal has proven that you get to where you can be an and Friends person. And, I'm actually doing DJ Brownie and Friends this weekend in Syracuse but I'm DJing. It's like a Logic and Friends kind of a thing where I'm DJing and my friends is Dogs in a Pile. Dogs in a Pile is playing behind my DJ set the whole entire set. So they've done this once before. And it was like Dogs electronic set. And so we're doing that at the Westcott Theater in Syracuse this Saturday. So this is as close to And Friends as I've achieved in my career. It's pretty fucking cool. But I'd like to wrap all those projects up when I don't want anybody to fucking get their panties in a bunch like that. I don't need the Electron guys or Jake and Donnie from Eggy to be like, he's trying to turn us into Brownie and Friends. Like, fuck that. Like,
I'm sure you, Jake and Donnie, will not be that pissed. But yeah,
I am not trying to turn you into Brownie and Friends. I am merely stating that at one point in the future, I am hoping to achieve the status where I can then do Brownie and Friends, and then I can go out and say, these are the dates I want to play. Who's available? It could be Mike Ganser from Aqueous. It could be the guys from Talk. AC and Matt from Talk. I'm talking to about playing a show with in October potentially, but I'd love for that to just be the beginning of Brownie and Friends. But I am afraid I have not achieved that stature yet, and so I will have yet another brand to bring to the table. But it's at one point in the future. So to bring that back around to your question. He kind of like asked, would like have Foie Gras and CrumpUntz, would that have fit into like a Brownie and Friends kind of thing, right? And I certainly on the surface it might have, but how it actually began was that it was going to be a Cotter and Friends show.
No kidding.
So yeah, ooh. Cotter apparently has achieved the status. Guy's been on the national touring scene for 9 months and he's achieved the status. But I mean, listen, guy's in Goose. He's out there. He's doing his thing. Love, like, obviously, Cotter is fam. Love Cotter.
Huge Biscuits fan.
Yeah. Huge Biscuits fan. It was such a pleasure playing with Cotter. So we're going to delve into all of this because this is actually like part of how this all happened. I'm not even sure if Cotter is aware that this was starting out as a Cotter and Friends show or not, because I had never spoken to him about that. So, I don't know like how much people know about the behind the scenes of this all, but in April of not this past April 2024, but 2023 April, we started being managed by the same team that manages Goose, not the full team, but like we have our own team within 1111, but with the same, head manager as Goose. And so the Biscuit, who has been a very, very close friend of mine for multiple decades now. And, I've been there to watch him build his company and build his, like multiple bands just explode big, gigantic and like, explode Goose. And we have so much respect for 1111 and kind of what they've done with all of their bands and how they've built such a great thing. And so one day I received a inquiry from a 1111 email, and it said, would you be available to come to New Orleans on this day, April, whatever, 24th or whatever it was? Goose is playing in at the fairgrounds, and we were thinking of doing like a late show, like Cotter and Friends. So that somebody at the management company was thinking, oh, this is a great time for Cotter and Friends. Magner's already down here. Let me see if I can get Brownstein down here, and we'll do a Cotter and Friends with Aaron and Mark, and then we'll see who else we can get. It's Jazz Fest. We could get, Eric Krasno. We could, Ivan Neville. It's like, and it goes on and on and on and on, right? Nikki Glaspie, like you could get anyone, right? So it's like all the horn players from the Soul Rebels, like whoever. Like there's so many options down there. And a couple weeks after that, I inquired, hey, what's going on with the Jazz Fest gig? Because I really want to play with Cotter. Mm-hmm. I heard through another podcast that Cotter was a huge Biscuits fan. I had actually, our manager like hit me up and was like, I'm listening to this podcast and before it's out, and Cotter keeps talking about the Biscuits, and he keeps talking about how many Biscuit shows he saw. And they asked him a question, what was your best show ever? So I guess it's sorry about that. It's my mom. I'm gonna not answer it, and I'll put my do not disturb on. So, sometimes I would maybe answer for my mom on a podcast
live on the air.
It's been done. So
We're live.
So Magner once answered the phone. His dad called on stage, like as we were going out on stage, and he was like in the microphone, say hi to the crowd. Dad. So anyway, back to Cotter and Friends. I heard that Cotter was a Biscuits fan. And then I was on Jam Cruise this year, and this dude, like 4 a.m, we're in the jam room, and this dude's like starts talking to me, and he's telling me something about Cotter or something or other. I couldn't really make out what he was saying. It was loud. And then I finally put it together. He was saying that he was in a band with Cotter in Burlington, Vermont, and that they covered Biscuit songs. They covered Hope was the one that I remembered. I accidentally answered the phone with my mom. By the way, I want everybody to know what's going on. And then hung up.
Welcome, Mom, to Always Almost There podcast. Yeah.
Now she's going. If I don't answer the text she's sending, she will have a heart attack in the next couple minutes. I'm on a podcast that's live. That's live on the air. Sorry, I will call you soon.
Honestly, Brownie,
for the help.
This is about in line with the kind of chaotic energy we have
so much.
Most of the time.
Yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect energy. But
great.
listen, I would imagine if the storm's called, you'd have to. Oh, there was your mom just now.
Yeah.
That was right.
Yes, thank you,
She's
Lisa.
watching.
Exactly. So Lisa knows you can understand what's happening here. So Cotter says this guy says Cotter and him played Hope. I've come to now hang out with Cotter, and he told me that it was also Hope and Helicopters and Spray Paint, and they had a whole list of songs. And then, I find out he was like 09 to like 14 going to like tons of Disco Biscuit shows. And, so for the Foie Gras show, when we finally get to talking about the show and the music, there was this energy that was just so amazing for like us playing together. So I want to play with him. He clearly wants to play with us. And suddenly I get a call that the rest of the Cotter and Friends is going to end up being, hopefully, if everything comes together, Rick and Peter.
Yeah.
And so I said, this is great. So now it's not even Cotter and Friends. It's like almost all of Goose with 2 biscuits, right? That's what we have going on right now. And so now they're talking about like what kind of a name. So, okay, we're putting together a name, but also waiting for confirmation because we have to find out from the festival, from Jazz Fest, like, can these guys even do this? Is it okay for them to go from headlining Jazz Fest to going directly 3/4 of the band into the Joy Theater? We eventually find out, as everybody now knows, that it is okay for them to do it, but they have to use some kind of fake names. We can't announce who the friends are. And so then they start going through the process. Actually, we do it in an email group. It was like, me and Magner and Peter and Rick and Cotter and, our manager, Ben, all together in the group. And we were just going back and forth, like song ideas, and like name ideas, and it got named a bunch of different things before we settled on Foie Gras and CrumpUntz,
Can you give us a sample of like one or two, just like one or two?
Let me see if I can find them while we're talking. But I'll just do a little research here. But we did go through like a ton of different names, and I may not be able to get it because I've switched phones and I've seemed to be having I'm like, fuck, this is the most boomer I've ever been in my life, dude. I switched phones from AT&T to Verizon. And I like poured it over, and like not everything is working the way it's supposed to work. It's like almost everything's working, but like some things are not working. Like some text messages go through, other text messages don't go through. I'm busy. Like I don't have time to like sit down and spend 3 hours trying to figure out why my text message, new phone, who this. So
There
no,
we go.
I can't. I don't know, but whatever.
All right,
It was like Cotter and the Bubble All Stars. Like there was all these different names, and then eventually Foie Gras and CrumpUntz we liked because we were like playing off of Unts, you know,
Yeah.
and like there was this whole subtext going on with like the Unts' like meme page, like getting like into the fun with the show, and he's been so relentless about Goose, and then suddenly he starts to kind of soften up a little bit, and then like now Rick is like commenting in there, so there was like all this kind of fun stuff happening online behind Foie Gras and CrumpUntz. But yeah, I don't know how we got to the name, but we eventually, it's one of those things where you got 5 guys, you've got 15 suggestions, and eventually everybody just is like, okay, whatever, just call it that. And let's move on to the next thing, which is what are we going to play?
Right. So what are you going to play? Because, we are Goose Podcast, and I know you and I talked a little bit about kind of your journey getting into the Goose songbook and kind of, learning the songs and figuring out what you wanted to play. But how did you decide? Let's talk about, Biscuits and covers afterward. But starting with the Goose songs that you ended up playing, how did you decide which ones you wanted to play? And, from there. Yeah.
So like Ben threw out a couple of suggestions, like, these could be like done in like the Biscuit style, and like, and then like Berkowitz starts thinking about like Dan Berkowitz, from 100X, he and El Gonzo or whatever. So he starts thinking about like what Biscuit songs can like mix. He keeps sending things like, creatures, crickets, or whatever, like these dream things. And to me, it's just like all words at this point, right? Like I know a lot of the names of the Goose songs because I'm in the jam band scene, and you can't help but see when a band is this big, like you can't help but see the names thrown around. And so I looked at like the list. And then I just kind of set it aside for a while, right? And then it's like, when am I going to listen to all these songs, right? And we get to like a week and a half out. Magner has now listened to a bunch of the songs and made a bunch of very like creative suggestions, but also like hadn't taken into account really that Goose is going to be like releasing an album this week. They're like on CBS in like New York, like they're like we have to try to keep this simple but like creative. Like how can we make this great but not make it so confusing that like we're doing halves of songs from bands that we don't even know the whole song yet, right? So we went to Magner and we were like, these are great ideas, but we have like, how can we simplify this? Well, I still don't know the songs. So finally about a week and a half in, I'm like, all right, let me figure out So what I'm looking for when I go in to listen is I'm looking for something that's playable. Like, it's like, I'm not going to give Goose the Overture or Magellan or like House Dog Party Favor. Like, there's 50 songs in the Biscuits repertoire that are instantly off the table because it's like nobody would be able to put enough time into like learning the compositional section of these songs for like a one-off gig. It's people don't do that. It's like learning Beethoven's Ninth Symphony for like the jam session on Friday night at the bar that we're doing. But I start listening through, and like I got to, I think the first one that I got to, everybody kept saying Creatures, right? So I listened to Creatures and instantly was like, all right, this is like playable. It's like catchy. It's like a really good song, like has this big open jam on it, right? So like we're going to be able to take this into all different kinds of places. I instantly can hear why people were suggesting Creatures, you know what I mean? But like, here's the thing. Like, the Biscuits have a very wide range of music. People, younger jam band fans, think of us as like an electronic Unts band, but like, we have 211 originals, and like probably the first like 100 of them, if there's any like electronic Unts or whatever, 4 on the Floor, it's just in the jam section of the song until 2008 when we brought out Caterpillar, or whatever year it was. Biscuit fans call me out on my misknowledge of this, but whatever year we brought Caterpillar out, 2006 or 4, whatever it was. It was a long fucking time ago. Until that song, we didn't have a song that was like written over a 4 on the floor beat. It was just like jam band songs, electronic jams, right? And or not even electronic jams. They were just like jam band jams just over like a 4 on the floor with some synth in it, right? Little by little, we like honed in on like how to mimic electronic music or how to like play in that genre a little bit. And then our more recent writing, like a lot of the songs have been written over 4 on the floor beats, which is great because it's a super, thank you, Jeff. 04 was Caterpillar. So, yeah, 08 sounded a little bit late. I agree with that. It was because you know why? I'll tell you why. Sammy left the band in 2005, and he wrote the loop at the beginning of Caterpillar, the sample that gets dropped before the band comes in. So it had to be before 05. But at any rate, it doesn't matter. There was 9 years where we hadn't written one song over like an unce quote unquote beat, right? And like the word unce came much later, but like, you know, trance beat or house beat, right? And so we have all this music, like I'm like a Grateful Dead fan and I'm a Fish fan. I love like when I go out and play with like John Kadlecik or like and play like full weeks of just Grateful Dead music, or I go out and play with like Kimmock and his son, and we're playing like slower like music when I play with my son and Jake and the Brownstein family band. It's all like Jerry Garcia band style. Even like the other covers that we pick, we put it into that kind of classic jam band style. And the reason that I do that is because I'm a fan of that music and I would like to play all kinds of music. And the Biscuits play all kinds of music throughout the course of our career. If now it's a little bit more heavily leaning electronic as we get older. But the point of this all is that when I'm coming into something like Foie Gras and CrumpUntz, I don't want it to personally. I'm not in charge. Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff Sullivan.
03, Caterpillar's 03. Thank you. I appreciate that. We have people researching for us here. I know we usually do. So can somebody figure out some of the other names for Foie Gras and CrumpUntz while you're at it? But figure out what's wrong with my email. That would be really great. So what I would like to do in these situations is play a whole slew of beats and sounds and stuff. I didn't want to come in and just be like, oh, what Goose songs do they play 4 on the floor on? Let's play that. Like, I don't prefer not to be pigeonholed in that way, where it's like if I'm going to play with a group of musicians, they think they need to put a 4 on the floor beat down because I'm there. And that for a while, that did happen for a while, but I had to like fight back against that. That's why we started Star Kitchen, was to like be in the scene with a band that could play at Jam Cruise or Jazz Fest and play all classic R&B songs that are over all different kinds of funk beats and slower beats, and like and get to play with Carl Denson and James Casey and, you know, Jen and Natalie and like, you know, DJ Williams and Roosevelt Collier and all of the different amazing musicians that played with Star Kitchen over like the 3 or 4 years that we were playing heavily. That was the whole purpose of it, was to get to go and play that music with all of these different musicians that and interact with people on a different level than we're the Unce people and you're like the funk people and you're like the R&B people and you're the classic jam band people. It's like it's a language and we all speak it, right? All the professional musicians speak this language fluently. And so I wanted to find some Goose songs that were not like that. Anyway, I listened to a lot of songs, and as I told Ryan, it's like, you know, listen, you're outside of the scene. I'm one to see people in the Goose scene constantly defending against Goose hate. To me, as an objective observer, it seems like this band is so big. Who the fuck cares what people say? Like why does anybody ever feel the need to defend Goose? It's like Goose has defended themselves at the box office, and they won the argument, and it's just like there's no need to like engage in that. But it's fun. It's the internet, you know. There's haters, and then there's people who are defenders, and it goes back and forth. But like looking at it from the exterior, and even talking to the guys in Goose about this, like I said the same thing. I'm like, hey, you guys should just not pay attention to that. You're like playing Madison Square Garden. It's like you've reached the pinnacle of like what all of everybody's goals are in the scene. So it's just like you are doing it successfully. It doesn't matter if people think it's whatever they call it or whatever, for whatever reason people. But you see this from the outside and you're like, wow, there's all these people that have this like negative view of this band. And then there's even more people that have this positive view of this band. It's clearly doing something. It's like fucking people are going crazy about it. Right. But you've never really heard the music. I've been to like a show at a festival for a couple minutes or whatever, but like I've never really heard the music. I don't know what Arcadia sounds like. I don't even know how to pronounce Madhuvan or Madhuvan or
Madhuvan. Neither do I.
Madhuvan, right? I mean, like I don't know how to pronounce it. I could, God knows, I don't know what it sounds like. So this process of going down there, so they have a really cool fucking thing, which is they have like a playlist that has every song they've ever released on Spotify. It's like the Goose archive. It's everything in one playlist, all of their releases. It's super cool. I don't know if we can do it because we have too many releases that it would just go on forever, but it's super cool that they've done it. It makes it really easy to go through and sift through like different versions of Hunger Site. So I got to Hunger Site and it was like a little slower feeling, like it had like a kind of a different feel to it, but it had this like it's like the same two chords that are in like the Reba jam, like the E flat Lydian and the F Mixolydian, but the song's in B flat major, it's like, but you're going back and forth between F and E flat. And it just sounded like, oh, there's like the Lydian is really pretty and I'll be able to like do a lot of like cool things with that sharp 4 in the jam that I am familiar with from our jams that are Lydian or playing Grateful Dead songs that are Lydian or whatever. Like I just love that mode and thought that it was interesting. So I was like Hunger Site right away. So Creatures, Hunger Site, done. But like I was still looking for something that was even like more out of like the blue. And that's when I found Hot Tea. And I was like, was it you, Ryan, who I asked at one point if it was like, what did I ask? If
you asked if it was Custy for Hot Tea to be your favorite song.
I was like, is it Custy for Hot Tea to be your favorite song? Am I going to be like the guy who like rolls into the show and is like Gold G Apparatus is my favorite song, or like I don't want to sound like a jaded Fish fan. Gold G's probably cool.
Sick.
It's probably Gold G's probably cool, but like there was like definitely a time and when it was like a little bit like or like there was top bouncing around the room or whatever. Like whatever. That's cool. Like I don't even know what the Crusty Fish song is anymore, but bouncing was certainly it for a while. Or like Sample in a Jar is awesome. It's all these Custy Fish songs are so fucking sick. They're so good. Like, why were they Custy ever? So that's why you can't trust. Like, you shouldn't care if it's Custy to like the song you like, because it's probably fucking awesome. I mean, if it's Custy, it's Custy for a reason, which is that a lot of people like it because it's good, right? So anyway, I found Hot Tea and like. I just like love it's like in minor key like song E flat and then like classic jam band like move of going to like the major E flat for the chorus, and like the chorus is so great. It's so catchy and just I never even got to the chorus. I heard Hot Tea and I heard like the first like minute and a half of it, and it was just like a funk song in E flat minor, honestly. And I was like, all right, this sounds great, and this sounds super easy. Boy, was I wrong about the super easy part, because I was like, how's Hot Tea? And everybody's like, great, let's do Hot Tea. Like, so now we got like the walk
down and all the.
Oh my God! Then I listened to the whole song. I'm just like ripping through like the first 2 minutes of songs, trying to figure out, that like later on I got to like the whole thing, and it was like quite not easy to be sure. It was pretty. I don't want to say confusing. It's not like it was like not playable. There's nothing in it that's technically too hard to pull off or whatever. Like, or it was just a lot of changes, a lot of like, and every time that there was a change, the change was like a little bit different from the previous time. Actually, when we finally got to the venue, like one of the first jokes we told was, hey guys, like before we get started, we just want to tell you something as like 50-year-old guys in the jam band scene who have made this exact mistake. Like 50-year-old you is going to be pissed that every single time you go from the verse to the chorus in Hunger Sight or in Creatures, like every single time you get to the end of a verse in Creatures, there's a different amount of beats before you get to the chorus. It's like 2 beats, then it's 4 beats, then it's 8 beats, and then it's 16 beats before going back into the jam. Like you are literally going to be like, oh, like we haven't played Creatures in 3 years. Yo, does anybody know like which verse is it 4 beats? Which verse? Like this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so I just like before you do too many more of these, stop doing that. Yeah, like it doesn't matter. It's not making the music so much deeper to have like that's not the thing that people are emotionally connecting to in your song. You don't have to like make it so tricky that you're gonna fucking hate yourself down the line. Sorry.
Well, now you're gonna get a phone call from Rick in like, you're allowed to curse.
No, with Canadian people.
Yes, Canadians are allowed to curse, believe it or not. But I was gonna say you're gonna get a phone call from Rick in like 2045, being like, "You were right." Like,
there's no question. I've already seen 2045 Rick through AI. You know what I mean? he looks great. 2045 Rick looks great. So I mean, we're definitely going to get a call from them if they can remember that it was us.
Right.
That told them this 20 years down the line when they're like forgetful 50-year-olds. But yeah, so what was the fourth song we did? We did Creatures, we did Hot Tea, we did Hunger Sight, and
Slow Ready.
There was the other one. Like we did the Slow Ready, and I heard that was suggested also by Berkowitz. And at first I was like, huh, interesting. He kept saying slow ready into crickets, slow ready into crickets. And I was like, I didn't know what part he was talking about because it's got that like techno kind of 4 on the floor beat with the thing and the second half of it. So I thought maybe he was talking about that, but it turns out he was talking about like the slow ready, like the slow verses and like the slow intro verse of crickets kind of melding together, which they don't really. I tried to force it at one point and it wasn't, they weren't anywhere really near each other, but not that it couldn't be done, but yeah. And Slow Ready is another one. So essentially I start listening to all these songs and I'm like, okay, like these are good songs. Like, you know, like my test is like this. If Barber came into the studio with Hot Tea, am I going to be like, this song sucks or this is great? Like, you know what I mean? I try to think of it like objectively, like I get out of it and be like, if somebody in my band wrote this song, would I be like, would I like it? I would love it. I would be like, Hot Tea, dude, Hot Tea in the morning. Let's fucking go. I love it. You know? And so, yeah, there was like that moment that I had leading up to this where I started to like understand the phenomenon of Goose a little bit better, which is like, you know, as somebody who's been around for 30 years and you see a band go over a 10-year period, but really over like a 3 or 4 year period and just ascend from clubs into arenas and you're, and you don't know them and know their music. I mean, I know them personally better than I know their music because I've hung out with Peter and played with him before. And I hung out for a little bit more than a week with Rick on the beach in the middle of the pandemic for like coincidentally, we ended up at the same hotel in Mexico, visiting the same people and hung out a lot down there. And so like, you know, had some really, really great deep conversations with him and got to know him on a personal level. And so like, I've met these guys, but I don't know the music and I see it all happening. So it was great to put it all together. It's like, because it's always about the songs, you know what I mean? In the end, it's about the songs. If you have the songs, this can happen. If you don't have the songs, it can't happen, right? And then like, if you have like great looks and amazing voices, it could go even further. You know what I mean? It's like when the Biscuits started to blow up in 1999 through like 2000 and it was because we had the songs. Like that's like it did. You know, when we went from 50 people to 3,500, 4,000 people, up to like playing in front of like 6,000-7,000 people, and more, like to where our events were pulling 20,000 people every year, 15 to 20,000 people at Camp Bisco are playing in front of these just massive crowds. That doesn't happen by accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
It never does. It's like, you can't manufacture a jam band in a test tube. No amount of money, like, Goose conspiracy theorists, no amount of money can make a lot of people buy tickets and go and support a band and feel emotional about them. No one human being can make a band like, it's like, okay, like the boy bands of like the 90s or whatever, they had that guy, I don't remember his name, who in Florida would bring the boys together and like exploit these groups of like 4 and 5 boys with their song. They would write the songs, but the dudes had talent. Like it's like the 5 most talented dancer singers. They like people who can harmonize, who are good looking. Those guys still had all of the things that you needed. They weren't all writing the songs, but they had the songs because they had this like song factory writing these songs for these. Basically, the guys in the song factory didn't have any of the other things. There was like a fat old guy, like, no offense to like, he wasn't like getting out and dancing these songs. Like the guys who invented them. It was like these music industry, like nevishes behind, like, but some of them could write great songs, but they didn't have the looks and the dance moves and like, the harmonies and all that.
Right.
So they have that. And then they find the other people to do the things that they don't have. That's the boy bands. But, it's like outside of that, like, no, like jam bands can't be manufactured like that. Jam bands, it's just like, how much hard work do you do? And then do you have all of the different elements? And, I always looked at Goose as like a 5-tool baseball player, a baseball player that can like hit, that could field, like, has like defense, like all like,
I appreciate you like explaining the sports reference because Ryan Storm has no idea what the fuck you're talking about right now, but like, thanks for that. 5-tool player.
Okay.
I get it.
That's okay. That's okay.
So yeah, a baseball player, Ryan, would be judged on like 5 different
I figured I got the context and what the 5-tool baseball player
speed and and so for Goose, it's like I've always kind of viewed them as this 5-tool band, like where they have like all of these different things, that elements that they write great songs, they're like good looking guys, they sing really well. They're endorsed by Trey. Like they have great management. Like it's like all of the things that you need in order to like have that spark of a moment. But like even endorsed by Trey happened after they they had created it all for themselves.
And as you said, the endorsement and things like that, it all happens for a reason. Now I do want to ask you a great question.
Enough Goose fluff. Let's move on.
Yeah, we can't do that for too long. It's not like we're a Goose podcast or anything.
But it was great to see. It was great to be like, oh wow, this is cool. I like these songs. Like I really enjoyed learning them and like I really enjoyed playing Trevor's bass lines in the studio, and like kind of we had like a great exchange where I texted him like, hey dude, I really like these bass lines. Like I feel like I'm learning from how you're phrasing things and some of this stuff. And then he like hit me back and was like, that's amazing because of like how much I learned from you when I was a kid going to Camp Bisco and going to see Biscuit shows and listening to your music. So it's like full circle there where it's like somebody like learned how to play bass listening to this and then, took it into his own thing. So
awesome.
All right. Question.
Yes. So our good friend Daniel in the chat had a great question about improvisation at the show. So he mentioned, thanks, Neil.
There was a show?
Yeah, right. There is a topic on this podcast. So it seemed like Magner and Cotter were really pushing the envelope for changes and timing the drops. Magner seemed quite impressed with Cotter all night. Was that something that you guys felt on stage? Like when you got on stage together, improvisationally, separating it from playing each other's songs, when you jammed for the first time and during the set, did you feel that kind of immediate connection?
Immediate connection. It was like, I knew that there was going to be an immediate connection before we started jamming, because I listened to enough Goose to know that they are fluent in the language that we speak. And I knowing that Cotter is a Biscuits fan and kind of knows the songs really well and knows like kind of what we do and how we do it. I had no question about Rick and Peter's ability to kind of just like find the space. So the first jam was the Helicopters jam, and Rick kind of laid back for a while, right? And it was more kind of a group improv thing, but it had a lot of energy. Like it was like right off the bat, like, and that was driven by Cotter. And so like to answer Daniel, like we all were impressed with Cotter. And when I say we all, I'm not just talking about me and Magner, because when we got off stage and went downstairs, the first two people I saw was Rick and Peter, and they were talking about how impressed with Cotter they were. They were like, they had said that they heard him hit a level that they hadn't heard yet at the end of the Slow Ready. They were talking about Slow Ready, and they were like, man, like Cotter was possessed. Like he was like, I don't want to like put words in their mouth, but it was like, you know, obviously he was excited to play with you guys and like took it energetically into a place that they weren't even sure that they had quite heard yet, you know, and over that song at least, and at other times. So Cotter really he was unbelievable all night. That guy's a beast. It was Cotter and friends. I mean, it really
Cotter
was.
and friends. Exactly. Well,
I mean,
that's what. Yeah, Neil, go ahead.
I was just going to say I think the thing that's most surprising about this interview is we kind of assumed you were at the center of Foie Gras, because you tend to be at the center of a lot of these things. You're an ambassador of like jam music, and like the Brownie and Friends, like that was the assumption all along. It says like, oh, Brownie put this together. Ryan and I have seen the Brownstein Family Band, huge fans, amazing shows. We kind of just figured it was like along the same lines of that. And, you know, I think one of the things that we realized when we were talking on our podcast the other night, recapping what they had just done in Mexico and everything else, was that Cotter, being a student, I guess, of the progenitors of the jam scene, has really benefited Goose, and he has added a lot to their sound.
Neil, would you like to say it as eloquently as you put it on the pod the other night?
Progenitors is pretty eloquent.
Well,
I said it less eloquently on the pod. It's just like Cotter is an original Wook, and he's just doing the Wook thing up there, and we absolutely love that about him. Like, I mean, he's a fan of the music, just like we all are. I think in a way that maybe not so many folks are. And
Cotter and I have that in common. You know what I mean? It's like that's one thing that we have in common, and it's like we're both big Fish fans. You know, and it's like you come from there. And so you're like starting on like a common ground of understanding about like just all kinds of things about the music, but just like, you know, why things are the way they are in general, just in terms of the format of the shows, you know, the format of jams, like, you know, different things that you can do in the music. There's like, you know, we wouldn't be where we are were it not for the progenitors of the scene. You know, and it's like, but Cotter is, he really was fantastic. And he definitely did, being somebody who like really knew the Biscuits well, really knows Goose well. He was like the one guy on stage that really knew what was going on, right? Yeah. You know, it's like, I guess we threw a wrench at him with Miracles, because that was like post 2014. So like Miracles is after Cotter's like Disco Biscuits touring years. And I thought Miracles may have been the best part of the set.
Agreed.
It was just like really, it was a great peak. The song was performed really, really well. Like, you know, I had been working really, really hard on singing it well, because I want to sing well, and that, you know, I'm up there with these guys that are well known for singing, and I just wanted to choose songs that that Magner and I know how to sing really well and sing it in harmony well together. And I think Miracles is probably the quintessential example of that in the Biscuits, a song that we've done outside of the Biscuits and Electron a bunch, and so the vocals originated with just the two of us, and it's it's one that I've worked on really, really hard, and it means a very meaningful song to me. So being able to introduce that to Cotter and the Goose guys, and then so many of the Goose fans was cool, and like seeing people online who are coming from that world saying that they've been listening to Miracles a lot is really fucking cool too. It's really awesome to see that song kind of have a moment in this thing. So that was cool because it was not like Helicopters and Buddha. It's not like a classic Biscuit song, really. I mean, it's 10 years old now. It's older than every Goose song, but it's still it's still kind of a new, it's somehow a new original for the Biscuits. It's new in our touring years.
That's Neil still refers to Limb by Limb as a new Fish song.
Limb by Limb is a new song.
I'm sure you can
absolutely
with as well. Yeah.
It's never not going to be a new song. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was going to say, Brownie, was listening to the set, after the fact and the tape. Thank you to Garrett, who streamed the show, and the tapers that recorded it. So we have a recording. Hopefully we see a soundboard or video soon. But one of the things that struck me listening to it was how cool it was to hear both you and Magner kind of put your flavor on Goose songs, and the Goose guys, kind of putting, like Rick, obviously, and Peter don't play anything like Barber on guitar, and having that second guitar is not something that the Biscuits have as well. So hearing like Rick approach some of those songs, and obviously I don't know the Biscuits catalog as well, but I did know Helicopters and Digital Buddha. I think I've seen both of those. I know I've seen Helicopters. But I digress. So listening to that kind of combination was really cool. And I just wanted to say, hearing what Magner was throwing in on songs like Creatures, where during the verse sections, Peter's on guitar. So we don't get those synth and piano flourishes the way that Magner was throwing in. So it was really cool to hear that extra dimension to some of the music from an audience perspective.
That's like how Nate Wilson joined Mo, right? And now every one of the Mo songs has that. There's a whole catalog of Mo that was just previously 2 guitar songs, and now they all have the keyboards on them. And Nate Wilson is, God, I'm so happy that Nate Wilson's in a major jam band, you know what I mean? Because he was from Percy Hill. I don't know if you guys know Percy Hill. Do you know?
Huge Percy Hill fan.
Neil definitely does.
I saw a lot of Percy Hill shows back in the day. Yep.
Yeah, Percy Hill is one of the bands we started out with. So that when I'm talking earlier in the interview about there being bands that started back in that day, and there's only a few that are still around. Percy Hill not being one of them, it's great that Nate is still around. You know what I mean? That Nate didn't go anywhere. He's still playing. He's great at what he does. But yeah, I mean, Magner, he killed the Goose stuff. He did a really, really great job. I listened to the show 3 times. I wanted to really hear what we did. And I listened to it right afterwards. And the next morning when I saw that it was streaming on the Goose radio, and then once the stream went up, I listened to it 2 more times over that next week. And I mean, speaking to the way that Rick played some of the Biscuit stuff. I mean, there was some guitar work that he did in different sections of Digital Buddha, which is kind of Middle Eastern-y guitar. So just, it was so sick. And
Rick loves that kind of zone.
Yeah. And he had these really fast, laser kind of licks that would come in and just be there for 10 or 15 seconds, 2 bars of just shredding, and then back into the song. And those flourishes were cool too, because you got Magner's flourishes on Creatures, but I'm hearing Rick do these little flourishes in Buddha and in Miracles that were super, super cool and just different. And obviously, I've heard Tommy, Barbara, and Rick all hit the Miracles peak. All 3 of them crush it. It's just it's just a little rising 4-chord rising thing. You got to really suck not to crush a 4-chord rising thing on guitar in the jam band world.
So I think one of the things that really stood out to us listening to it is you were just talking about how it seemed like Rick was really at home playing Biscuit songs, but it also seemed like you guys were really at home playing Goose songs, and everything just fit like a glove.
Yeah.
And I think it just sounded great. So the question is, and I think what everybody wants to know is like, will there be more? Will there be more crumpets at some point in the future?
CrumpUntz, Neil.
So
CrumpUntz.
part A
Yes.
to my answer to your comment that I just would like to first, before we talk about the future, is that, I was off and Magner was off that whole like 10 days leading up to this. And like Goose was on this like world like press tour, right? And they had to also prepare for their show at Jazz Fest, and we had no other show to prepare for but this. So I was able to learn the Goose songs in and out. Like I had enough time to like memorize. Like I was off chart by the time I got to the shows, which for like a one-off show like this is not that common to like have it like a song like Hot Tea with all those changes fully memorized and ready to go. So when we got to sound check, and we were like, oh yeah, we'll practice at sound check. And then you realize actually you're going to sound check at sound check. Like the first like hour and 20 minutes, there wasn't even any song playing. It was just like kick drum, goosh, 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 goosh. Like 5 minutes later, you're like, is the kick drum done yet? Like, it's like, so when we finally got to play, we were like, we had to kind of triage for the show. It was like, what's the most important thing? And so it was kind of going through the Biscuit stuff with Rick and Peter and making sure that they like were comfortable on Helicopters and Miracles and Buddhist. Basically, they had like an hour and a half to learn these 3 songs. And so we never even practiced the Goose songs. Like we basically told them like, hey, listen,
we got it.
We got it. Like, we don't have to do this. Like, we got it. Like, we're down. Like, we have them down. We know the intro. We know the outro. We know all the different little intricacies. Like, we listen to like Cotter versions. We're like listening to like the most current stuff. So we know how you're doing them now, which is a mistake I've made. Like doing something like go to play with like Bob Weir and like, at the Brooklyn Bowl and Jay Lane, and I'm learning like a song from like the 1978 version where they're all on like cocaine and fucking blazing through the shit. And then I show up to like Bob Weir 2018.
Right. Half tempo. Yeah.
Oh my God. So after that, and I always know now, you go to the last time the person ever played it. You're going to go sit in with Bob Weir or somebody, listen to the Dead and Company version. And Rick and I actually had a little laugh about that exact thing. Like learning Dead songs to go play with the guys now.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, you better learn a Dead and Company version.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go listen to 1984 Touch of Grey or whatever. So don't do that. So we got through this in like an hour and 20 minutes, taught them all the songs, went downstairs, wrote charts, went through it again, like went over the cover songs and never really touched any of the Goose stuff. So we were comfortable on the Goose stuff. We did put a lot of time and effort into it. And these guys just like picked the other stuff up. Cotter obviously knew what was going on. Peter had done quite a bit of preparation too, and Rick, I knew we had kind of planned for like me and Rick to sit down and do like a last minute like
crash course.
It sounds like on brand for all of them.
I was gonna say,
this well prepared.
From what we
crash
know,
course for Rick.
Yeah.
It was crash course. It was crash course.
Cotter just knows it.
Yeah. And Cotter knows it already. Yeah. Peter did a good amount of work, and Rick was, and I say this like not to put Rick on blast, but like it was like I knew the whole time what he was doing leading up to this show, and that it was going to be that we knew from the very start, like let's pick a lot of stuff that everybody knows how to play. So most of the songs he knew. It was just coming in and like learning 2 songs, like start
right. And I guess and the cover picks as well. I think
made it so that we didn't have to practice that stuff. Like we just made, we knew everybody knows these songs. Let's just go over the form. They play, spin you round different form than we play it.
So that's what I was going to say with the cover songs. Like, yes, everyone knows them and you guys know the songs, but like a song like Cross-Eyed that has been covered by 800 different bands in the jam scene, everybody plays it a little bit differently. And even You Spin Me Round, as you mentioned. So that's cool that you guys I was gonna ask if you guys,
For
ran those at
cross-eyed,
all.
I never played cross-eyed before, and so, but for cross-eyed,
Really?
So
Wow.
well, we it's like so many years you stay away from the stuff that Fish does, right?
Right.
Right.
So
Fair.
it's like I just don't do it. But this seemed like a good opportunity to do. I wanted to do 2001. I wanted to do I put that on the list. I'm like, let's play 2001. It'll be fun. Rick will kill that shit,
Yeah.
but it got nixed at the last minute. But the cross-eyed, it's just ended up being how it was. It was like, we're going. The bass line is the same the whole entire time. So I just needed to know like one bar of music, right?
Right.
So I just was like cross-eyed. I'm just like following along, watching Rick and watching Connor really closely so that I know when we're coming around to the next section, and I know the song well enough to obviously I know all the parts. I know how cross-eyed goes. I've seen Fish play it dozens of times. So, at any rate, and I of course have listened to the Talking Heads too, but like it's more like I feel like we end up playing it more like Fish plays it when you do it in a jam band version of it, So, but yeah, like the Rick pulled it off so well. Like he like came in, worked really hard, concentrated. You know how serious he is. He's like he's like really like he's just really good at what he does, and he put the time in. He put enough time in the couple hours before the set, and which is usually how I am with learning. Usually that's how I am with learning stuff. Like for like a show like this, I get to the day of and I just start cramming through it.
Yeah.
So we were down in at dinner. Like they had dinner the next night at Shaggy's place for it was like every year Shaggy, not Shaggy. What's the painter's name that we were at? The Frenchie. We were at Frenchie's studio where he does or his gallery where he does like a dinner for a band every year at Jazz Fest. And this year it was like for Goose, and it was fully like catered, Ben like ordered this amazing thing, and we got to like go the next night and like decompress and hang out and like go over what had happened, and got a chance to like individually like talk with Trevor for a while and individually talk with Rick for a while, not like worrying about the show and everything. And Rick said it's like private a little bit what our conversation was, but like he said that he had a really, really great time playing the show. As he was leaving, he was like, I want you to know I had a really, really great time on stage last night. It was just like, it's like what it's all about, like showing up to something and just having fun playing music. And this was just pure fun. And so I said, I had a great time too. And I hope that we can do it again sometime. And, and he said, let's try to do that. So that's the answer. The long-winded answer.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah,
I can't
get around to it.
I can't just say yes or no. That's what.
Of course.
Yeah.
Where's the fun in that?
I gotta string you along for 11 minutes with 3 more anecdotes and 4 more diversions.
There we go.
Exactly. But I digress.
One thing you may not be aware of, and I just feel like I should point it out before we ask our next question, but when Goose was in Mexico, they played a version of Slow Ready and tacked on a jam to the end of Slow Ready that was remarkably similar to Country Royale. And I wanted to point that out to you in case nobody has or you haven't seen it on Blue Sky or anything like that.
Well, we'd like to first of all thank our friends of the pod and Disco Biscuits consultants. Would you say Adam, Jeff, and Daniel? Yeah,
Jeff and Daniel. Yeah, and Adam, of course. And so like already this show has influenced the music, at least in my opinion. I don't know if that's absolutely true. To great effect. The jam was sick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course it was sick. It's it's like G D A, like you can't. It's like can't miss jam band territory, right? It's like you can't really fuck up a 7/4/1 to everybody. Anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's like the numbers representing the chords in the modes, but like the 7th chord going to the 4th chord going to the tonic chord of your section is a true can't miss territory. And so for us, it's Country Royale, but it's a tried and true improvisational changes that we've been playing for decades now. Like, you know, certainly when Country Royale came into being and I heard it for the first time, I like, you know, I'm not like, I don't have to like pick my instrument up to try to figure out what the song is. It was like,
Right,
oh wow,
you knew 741.
they wrote a song over the 741 changes that we've been playing for, you know, 30 years. So yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that's just not automatically changes that get played by every single jam band. But I'm, you know, like, you know, listen, when you've been playing and jamming for 30 years, there's, you know, you've got your 1 chord, you've got your 2 chord, you've got your 3 chord, right? And your 4 chord, if it's a minor 3 or a major 3, of great difference, you know. But then there's like the 6, the 7, and the 5, right? Those are the numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You got all of those chords, and so with 7 numbers, you know, there's truly an infinite amount of combinations that you could put in terms of like creating chord changes. And so over the years, we have created, you know, in dozens and dozens and dozens of combinations that we like to come back to throughout the course of the jam, you know, 6-7-1, you know, 1-4, 1-4-5, you know, 5-4-1, you know, 5-7-1. All like these are all like 1-3-6-4, or just like 1-6-4 minor 6. Like these are like, I could drop any of the things that I just said, spit out there. I could like change my bass note underneath what we're doing to any of those combinations that I just spit out, and everybody in my band will instantly know what's going on like under there, because it's, you know, you become fluent in hearing how these changes sound when somebody comes in with the bass underneath, and it's like 1-3-7, 1-7-3. All of these combinations have a slightly different sound and a slightly different effect, but ultimately they all create peaks, right? Like that's all, ultimately it's like if you're a band like the Biscuits that have tons and tons of open jams that don't necessarily have endings or like pre-written peaks, we're like creating peaks in our jams, like where that's like the goal. The goal is that we'll get into an improvisation, find a new kind of chord progression or an old one or some combination of the two, and then latch onto it and then just kind of build it until, you know, melodies start to appear and it explodes into a peak. Some, you know, chord progressions do that better than others. The old 7-4-1 is a can't miss, you know. So I'm glad they did it. This isn't the first time that I've been apprised of the fact that the Slow Ready from
Mexico,
from Gonzo, had a Country Royale jam in it.
There you go. It's people are talking about it. Well, Brown, we want to thank you for chatting with us about Foie Gras and CrumpUntz today. Now, before we go, for those who don't know, and this has been talked about on the internet before, not related to that show, but we have our good friend of the pod who we've talked about, Jeff, aka Captain Incredible. And we just wanted to get on tape the cheese story for anybody who doesn't know about the cheese story, if you wouldn't mind telling it.
So there was 2 cheese contests, right? And it's a really long time ago, so it's hard to they kind of blend together, you know, like
it's like 03 or so.
Yeah, they blend together like you know, like a big vat of melted cheese. You know, it's like everything's blending. But so yeah, like back in like 03 or something, I trying to think of where it was, but I think it was like at the Barrymore Theater in Madison, Wisconsin, was definitely one of the cheese contests. And like we'd have like a garbage can out there. You need a garbage can.
Yeah, you sounded truly revolted on the tapes, like I have to say.
Yeah, it was revolting. And we had Jeff, who I think was the reigning champion, I think, of the
Won
cheese.
Twice, I think.
Yeah, he was the reigning champion, if I remember properly. And we brought Jeff Hill up, and we brought in a ringer. We were gonna take Jeff out. You know, I mean, he's gonna lose his tickets for life. You know, that wasn't a personal thing, Jeff. It was just like, you know,
for the bit.
25 years of tickets for life, you know, starts to add up after a while. But I'm just kidding. But I kid you, Jeff Hill. But we brought in this guy, Joseph Corbett is what everybody called him. He's a bigger guy. He was a big guy. There's no way the bigger guy is losing to skinny old Jeff Hill.
Was Corbett from Wisconsin also?
No, Corbett's from Scranton, Pennsylvania,
okay.
which is even like it's like the same. It's like he's known for eating pizza with American cheese on it. It's like it's not even pizza. So it's white bread and American cheese. And so they're like, we bring this guy in, and lo and behold, like he can't even like hold in all the cheese. He's like I like see him cheating, like the Corbett guy. He's like spitting cheese out and like dumping cheese in the garbage. And it's just like, it was disgusting. And like, I think he may have like spit it all out or puked in the garbage eventually. But, I must say, fair and square, Jeff, that guy takes down a block of cheese like nobody else I've ever seen before. Now, he's like the Joey Chestnut of cheese. Like, but that's exactly the point. You think the big guy's going to win, but it's Joey Chestnut who can eat 96 hot dogs or something. It's the little skinny guy that can expand his stomach bigger somehow. And so I don't know what what's going on anatomically behind that and scientifically, but I guess, maybe there's just more room in the skinny guy for the stomach to keep expanding. But he expanded that stomach, and he still, to this very day, as you know, Ryan, is hitting me up. Captain Incredible, Jeff Hill, he hits me up before every Biscuits tour and tells me what shows he's coming to. And I don't think anybody in the whole entire organization, yes, we have an organization.
You have an organization too?
Yes. I don't think anybody in the whole entire organization, the best is being with Goose and having them like refer to themselves as the organization. Yeah. It's like getting in on the joke. I don't know if the fans know that this is happening, but like, they
true. Yeah, we do.
Call themselves the organization to my face. But in our organization, I might be the only person left who even knows that Jeff Hill exists, and or why there's somebody named Jeff Hill who seemingly always gets on the guest list no matter what it is. But I do usually write Jeff Hill, and then I put parentheses cheese eating contest winner. Like I feel the need to still like qualify that for like
someone's gonna ask
whoever the newest tour manager is has never heard the story, and they just see Jeff Hill cheese eating contest winner, and like that's the first they're hearing about this is and they're just like, huh, what's that about? So yeah, he won, and he's coming to something on this tour. Portland. Maybe?
He's going to be in Portland. He's twisted my arm. I'm probably going to go up there. I live in Boston, so we'll see you at the State Theater.
Rosewood.
Yeah,
there we go.
How about that?
Bringing him in. Good job, Jeff.
Yep.
All right. Well, this was great. It was really a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Yes, Brownie. Thank you so much for joining us. We really, really do appreciate it, and we look forward to if and when CrumpUntz happens again.
I'm looking forward to the wrap up podcast of the next Foie Gras.
Excellent. Oh, yeah. Excellent. That's what we like.
See you then.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's podcast. We are 1 week away from the start of summer tour, which is very, very exciting. And later this week, we will have a very lengthy winter spring recap pod out for all of you. So look out for that. But everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. Brownie, thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
See you all very soon.